Good evening. My name is Daphna Adler. I'm one of the counselors here at Los Altos High School, and I'm happy to welcome everyone to the 12th grade Parent Night presentation. And I'm joined tonight by some of our wonderful counselors, our College Career Center, and our assistant principal, Fabian Morales. And we've got Jamise Parker with us this evening, Laura Duran in the College Career Center. We will also have Angela Price joining us, and we have Maria Herney, our community bilingual liaison, and she is interpreting for us on the Spanish channel. So all families that would like to listen to the presentation in Spanish, please choose the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen, the little globe, and you can switch to the Spanish channel. So tonight, we are here to speak with senior parents about what's happening for your students this year within our counseling department and College Career Center. So there's a lot of information coming up in the next 45 minutes or so. We are recording this presentation and the slides will be available as well in the next few days on the counseling website. So we'll dive right in because we've got a lot to cover, and then we'll take questions at the end. I'm going to get us started. This is our agenda. So we've introduced everyone, and then we're going to start off talking about what's happening with students and their counselors this year, and then we're going to get into more of the material for next year. So this year, we have just started our senior check-in appointments, which are 15-minute check-ins for every student who's a 12th grader. We go to the next slide, please. Oh, sorry. Let me back up. I'm sorry. Let's do some better introductions when we're back. Okay, this is our entire counseling department. I'm so sorry. There's all of us here we're all in the photo, and then our wonderful counseling secretary, Maite Vallado, on the right-hand side, and then our counseling website where you can find a lot of information. Go ahead. And then I mentioned Laura Duran, who's here with us, and Angela, who will be logging on shortly, and they're going to speak with you in a little bit. Okay. So our 12th grade counseling overview. So all seniors are going to have a one-on-one senior check-in with their counselor this quarter, and we have just started those this week. So we're checking in with each student about their transcript, graduation status report, and A through G requirements for UC and CSUs to make sure that all students are on track with all the requirements that they need for both graduation and their college plans. We will talk about what their plans are, take any questions that they have, make sure they understand the letter of recommendation process, which we're going to get to in a moment, and to connect them with the College Career Center, where they're going to be doing the majority of their college and career planning this year. Counselors are also available for students on a drop-in basis during brunch and lunch, and they can also make an appointment with us during ACT. And of course, always ongoing communication with us through the website, email. Jamise Parker does a wonderful quarterly newsletter for us, and Parent Square as well. Okay, so we'll dive into letters of recommendation. So this is a big undertaking for fall semester for students as part of their college application process. So the way that letters work, there are counselor letters and there are teacher letters, and we made a presentation last week to students, so we're going to mirror that tonight a bit so that you understand what they are working on. So most private colleges and some public out-of-state universities do require letters from a student's counselor and or teachers, just depending on what a particular college requires. And so there's a process to request those. The link to a digital request form for the counselor letter is available in the counseling section of the Los Altos website, and that was shared with students a week ago as well. So students will submit the form to their counselor, and then again, all digital, and that's going to come with a questionnaire that they fill out. We ask them to attach a resume, and parent and teacher feedback is included as well. Next slide, please. So the packet that they're submitting to us, as I mentioned, they already got their instructions last week. And it's essentially a form through a platform called Informed K-12 that we use for a number of different forms. And this has really streamlined this process nicely for both students and counselors. So this year's a rather simple form. Students fill out their information and their earliest due date. They sign it digitally. They put in a parent email And that will then get routed to you. And then you're going to digitally sign it. And also, pretty please fill out a questionnaire for us. It is not required, but we really, really, really appreciate it. It's highly recommended for parents to do that. And it is translated into Spanish as well. So it could be answered either in English or Spanish. And if you are a Spanish speaking parent and you want to respond in Spanish, please do that. We'll take care of the translation on our end. Most important thing is just to get feedback about your student to be able to incorporate. And this is important because with the counselor letter, we don't see students every day the same way that teachers do. So this information is really important for us to learn more about your students so that we can write them richer, more detailed letters. So again, your student will initiate the form. After they fill out their part, they are going to enter in your email address and it will be routed to you. So you'll receive an email from Informed K-12. You then click on that form and fill it out and then submit it back to the counselor. Next slide, please. Okay, and
I'm sorry, Ms. Adler, can I, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I just need to make the announcement one more time for our Spanish-speaking families. Familias, si por favor prefieren escuchar la presentación en español, por favor, en la pantalla, debajo de su pantalla tienen un mundo, ahí pueden seleccionar el lenguaje en español para escuchar la presentación en español. Sorry, Ms. Adler.
No problem. Okay, and lastly for me for the moment, deadlines. So this was shared with students at the presentation last week. We have 3 deadlines depending on their needs. So if your student is applying for any sort of deadline prior to November 15th, so that could be early action, early decision, an art school supplement, scholarship priority deadline, anything like that, regardless of what it's called, if it's due on or before November 15th, the student's deadline to submit their request and questionnaires is September 11th. If your student is applying for regular decision deadlines that are after November 15th, then the packet is due to the counselor by October 2nd. And that could be regular decision, early decision 2, anything that's beyond November. And then lastly, December 15th is the final deadline for the semester if your student needs the counselor to take any action on anything. If your student submits something earlier, either for that September 11th or October 2nd deadline, the college list, it's helpful if it's as final as possible, but it's actually okay for students to make changes in their Common App, because once we send everything once, if students add other schools, it actually gets sent automatically after that point. So they don't have to let us know, oh, I added a school to my list or anything like that. However, the exception to that for that December deadline is if your student needs their counselor to fill out something new, such as I decided to apply to a different college that is not on Common App and has a separate application and needs something sent separately from the counselor. So something to that effect. The deadline for that is December 15th, and anything beyond that will get sent in January after the holiday break. All right, I'm going to turn it over now to Laura Duran from the College Career Center.
Thank you so much, Ms. Adler. Yes, we're very excited to speak with you all tonight and meet with your students this fall and into the spring as they go through this very exciting process. So some resources that we have available in the College and Career Center, we have online and in-person resources. One resource that we've been having students use, hopefully since 9th grade, is Naviance. We recognize that there's various amounts of usage up till 12th grade, but now is definitely the time for your student to start using Naviance if they haven't over the last few years. And we can help them navigate that and get ramped up to where they need to be. We also host college admissions rep visits. Those started this week, and it's been really exciting. We have more than 70 schools coming to visit, and your student can sign up for those through Naviance. We have scholarship information in Naviance, and we can help them find those scholarships and apply for them. We also promote scholarships through the weekly bulletin that we send out to students, which parents can view. It's a running Google Doc. We also promote volunteering opportunities, internships, jobs that might come up, and just ways to get involved in the community. The MVLA College Counseling Handbook was a physical book that students could pick up last spring. If your student lost theirs or needs another copy, please send them into the College and Career Center. We're happy to give them another one. It's also in a digital format located on the Los Altos High School website under the College and Career Center section. We also are hosting ACT workshops, and we provide drop-in help. So that can be for college essays, UC and CSU applications, the Common Application, community college, international universities, brainstorming essays. Really, if your student has some questions or needs some support anywhere in their post-secondary planning, they can come see us in the College and Career Center, and we'd be happy to work with them. Okay. Thank you. And here's just 2 images of some of the digital resources. We previously had the College and Career Center website on a Google site, but now it's being merged into the Los Altos High School main site. And then we have a sub-tab under Student Services. We're still working on the aesthetic, but all of the information is there. So you might see some aesthetic changes throughout the next few months, but all the content is still there. If you or your student have Instagram, we encourage you to follow us at los_altos_CCC, where we try to post essential information in a timely way or different opportunities, because we know many students are using social media and maybe not always reading the long bulletins I'm sending out on Friday. And we also have, old school physical guidebooks that students can pick up and flip through, which can be very useful. So in the new center, we're open. We're excited to have students in the space. We really like the FISC guide and some of these other books, and we are happy to help students find the books that might be relevant to them and even find the information to help support them on their journey. And then we are going to be hosting a series of events, and we'd love for you to make a note of some of these in particular. The MVLA College Fair this year will be hosted at Mountain View High School's campus. That's going to be on Tuesday, September 26th from 5 to 7 p.m. There are supposed to be about 100 colleges and universities, both domestic and international, at that fair. It's open to the community, so you can bring, children that are maybe in middle school. You can come, and definitely your high schoolers can go. And it's going to be run through StriveScan. More information will be sent out. We're going to be hosting a virtual CSU and UC information night. The first hour will be a CSU campus. The second hour will be a UC campus. And they'll walk through an overview and then specifics about their campus. And that'll be on October 3rd from 6 to 8 p.m. Ms. Price and I are going to throw a party, the CSU UC application party. So if your student just wants to have another set of eyes or come collaborate with other seniors who are going through the same thing from 4 to 6 p.m., definitely have them come. And that's with 3 more weeks before the deadline. So if they show up on that date, we'll give plenty of time for them. And then Countdown to College, we host that every spring, but there's a lot of relevant recordings that you can view from 2022 and 2023. We have a YouTube channel. Please subscribe if you'd like. And then financial aid will be changing this year. So FAFSA is going through the biggest overhaul in 40 years. It's being delayed. Usually it opens on October 1st. It's opening sometime in December. We don't know the exact date. If you have questions, you can absolutely reach out to us, but know that the CSS profile still will open on October 1st for students that are seeking institutional aid, predominantly from private colleges. And then the FAFSA and California DREAM Act application will open up in December, and we will have information nights and also workshops to help your student and you navigate financial aid. And I'm going to pass it to Angela Price, College Advisor.
Hi, welcome, all of you. Glad to be here with you tonight as well. And hopefully we'll be able to ease some of your mind about the concerns you have about this process for your students as we move on to getting ready to applications and essays and the rest of the college process. So I see students one-on-one. I saw some of your students last year as juniors, and I'll see them again as seniors, and all they have to do is to go online on the CCC website, and there's a link there that they can make an appointment to see me. And so college planning does focus on college fit, and students always want to know what that means. And I can tell you it's different for almost every college, depending on what the student seek for themselves. So having this discussion with them one-on-one will help them decide on their college fit. Creating a master spreadsheet with deadlines and tasks will keep them in line in terms of as their colleges come up to have applications done and completed in time. So they will be ahead of the game and not let the college process run them. They will have a sense of they're in charge of their own process. Decide on a day for weekly family college discussions. I think that parents definitely should be kept in the loop. You don't want to come into the loop after the decision has been made by a student to apply to a college that may not be able to give them the aid they need or support they need. So definitely talk about what's going on and which college they're applying to, how they're moving along with essays, with applications, and make sure that they are accessing our website and our office to get support along the way. You have to put your student in the driver's seat. This is one place where you can't do it for them. They have to do it for themselves. They need to be able to own their process. I think that more ownership students have in it, at the end of the day, what the outcome is, and no matter which college they get into, they'll be happy with that. And definitely attend the NVLA Parent Education Speaker Series, because you're going to hear from educators that have been in the business for a long time with students, and giving parents a little bit of information about how they are going to be able to negotiate and navigate as the students move on from high school to college. And you have options. You all, this is the United States of America. There's many, many options in terms of college. Thank goodness that Mr. Rand and I have so much to offer your students when they come in, and to talk about the opportunities that are out there for them. In California, 115 California community colleges, 23 California State University campuses. We call it the CSUs, 9 University of California campuses, and we call those the UCs. 1,600 private colleges, over 1,500 out-of-state public universities. We are well endowed in this country. We have nothing but options for your students, nothing but options. Community college offers a fantastic pathway to 4-year to careers that do not require necessarily 4-year education. It is a great place for students to start if they are not ready to move on to a 4-year institution and want to take some time to have a smaller access of education in this country. They offer general education, associate degrees, transfer, or certificate options, career apprenticeship programs. They can explore coursework for personal interests. Just take their time and sort of figure out what they want to study. And that's real important for a student who just want a little bit more time to get there. All students aren't at the same level. They are all aren't ready to move on to a 4-year institution, to leave home. So there are lots of community college options for all of our students. And students can complete all the preparatory, courses that are necessary for transfer to the UCs and the California State University, as well as private colleges in California. Really do appreciate and support the community college transfer as well. So nothing but options for our students. And the community college website is where you can find more information about the community college pathway. California Community College offers a promise. It's tuition-free for 2 years. Transfer Pathways is a guaranteed tag program, which means they can sign an agreement to transfer to some UCs. And each community college will have a pathway for the tag program. And then there's associate degree for transfer students too. The students can pursue the associate degree and complete and get an AA. They do not have to do that, but that is an option for students to do. The CSU applications is one app. Thank goodness. 23 campuses can all be accessed for one application. The date that will open up will be October the 1st, and all students can go on October 1 and begin to fill out their Cal State application. And so I think that the most important consideration that students sometimes think about are writing essays. The UCs do not require essays. CSUs do not require essays. So that's going to be really great for students who want to just get an application to a Cal State campus and will not have to put in an essay to be considered for admissions. The minimum requirement for CSUs is a 2.5 weighted GPA, 10th and 11th grade coursework only. As I said, no essays, the recommendations letters, except for first generation and low income students who are applying for the EOP program. That's Educational Opportunity Program that the California state system set up to support students who will be the first in their family to go to college. You self-report all the grades on the application, so there's no transcripts that will be sent in until the end of the year, and it will go only to the CSU your student will want to attend. SAT or ACT is no longer considered for admissions. I mentioned EOP before. It was established in 1969, and it is a support program that is set up for students that are first generation and also low-income students. So if your student fits that category, please make sure that they check in with Ms. Duran or myself and let us help them with their EOP statements and filling out the application so that they will be considered into a program that will be able to help them be mentored through the CSU career. The UC applications, University of California. There's 9 campuses throughout northern, all the way to the middle, all the way to southern California, as you can see on the map. All campuses can equally give your student a good education. I always tell students that the UCs did not go out and pick their faculty from the corner. They all have PhDs. So I hope that all of our students will look at all of these campuses and will consider them as campuses that they will be able to apply to. One application, that will go to all the UC campuses, and students always ask me, will the UC share the application? Will they look at, where else they're applying? No, they do not. I read for UC Berkeley. I didn't have access to, on that application, to find out where other students were applying to in the UCs. It is not a consideration. If you apply to more than one campus, you definitely will have your information sent to that campus, and the other campuses will not know where else you're applying. So it is not something that students have to worry about. They can apply to all 9 campuses if they want, and that's perfectly fine. The application opened up August 1. We've been working with your children for a while. We started this summer with a workshop, and so many of our students have already started their application to the UCs. If they have not started, there is not, they're not behind. We can help them any day of the week they come into our college center to get them started on the UC application. The deadline would be November 30th. So they still have time. There is no panic that needs to be, set in right now. Students are doing just great. If you believe your child needs help with the UC application, that they haven't even got started, just send them to the CCC. We'll help them out. Minimum GPA is 3.0, and 10 and 11th grade, A through G, coursework is considered. I really want to emphasize 3.0 because a lot of students think they have to have a 4.0 to apply, and you do not. Every UC that I know have admitted students at a minimum GPA, depending on what else that student brings into their application. So if you have a student with a 3.0 weighted GPA at Los Altos, and they're worried about, or don't think they want to apply to a UC because they think their GPA is too low, please have them come in and talk to us about that. There's 4 personal insight questions that are required out of the 8 that are offered. And they're short, 3.350 word count for those essays. Students can write them, and we also work with them with that as well. No letters of recommendations are accepted. The student get to state their own case in their own UC application, just with the credentials that they bring. Their essays, their grades, their activities, that's what the UC is going to be making their decision based on. And all grades are self-reported on the application. Transcripts are not used again until the end of their senior year, and the student will send their transcript to the one UC that they've decided to attend. They can create and check the UC application portals frequently. We will urge them to do so. Again, no SAT or ACT is considered for admissions, so your students cannot send that score to the UCs. They do not consider those scores in the admissions process. In private and out-of-state public colleges, there's so many, and most colleges will use the Common App. Some colleges use their own application through their website, like Georgetown or MIT, but most colleges will be on the Common Application. Counselor and teacher recommendations are required. Essays or personal statement typically required, and we can check, each student should check for the 2023-24 testing requirements. Many colleges have already indicated that they're not going to be using them this year, and they're still going to, make a decision whether they'll not use them permanently. but please have your students check their websites. If they can't find them, again, have them check into the CCC. Mr. Rand and I can definitely help them find whether their school is accepting testing or not. And the Common App goes to over 900 colleges and universities. And we would not like for your students to apply to 900. We don't want your students to apply to 30. We want them to apply to schools that they really, really want to go to, and not to just click off boxes for universities because it's a quick application or they don't have to write an essay. Really be thoughtful in terms of application that you will be uploading into the Common App. One application for all participating schools. It is connected to Naviance. There's some public out-of-state schools that also use their own application exclusively, but some also are on the Common App. And the students should apply to the institution on using the Naviance process that we have set up for them, because the Common App will match with the Naviance, which means that the information from counselors, their recommendations, teacher recommendations, will be accessed by Common App if students are applying through our Naviance. So we want them to make sure that they list their colleges in Naviance as well as put them on the Common App. Okay, I think that, am I going to do this one, Mr. Rand, FAFSA, or are you doing this with financial aid?
Let's skip this one.
Okay, the WUI. So WUI is a program that is used by students who are in the western part of California, western part of the United States. As you can see, the states that are part of WUI. These schools have agreed to charge our students the same fees that a UC or CSU would charge for tuition. And so they're very accessible in terms of how much the cost for tuition. If you're going out of state, this would be a great way to go out of state, because you know the tuition will be the same as our in-state schools. Some colleges have requirements that students will need to fulfill. And I need to change the view. I can't see all of mine. Okay. And so a list of colleges will be listed on the WUI website. Students will be able to find out which colleges are part of that program. Again, all these schools are really great schools, you know, that our kids have access to for the same amount of money that they would pay to attend a Cal State or a UC. So definitely, if your child is interested and they don't know a lot about it, want to know more about it, to come to CCC, we certainly can talk to them and walk them through the WUI process. Okay, college testing. UC and CSU are not considering SATs or ACT testing. So please, please, please do not have your children, if they're going to take testing and they know they're only going to apply to these two schools, they do not have to take the SAT or ACT to be considered for the UCs or CSUs. If they're applying to other colleges that might need them, they certainly should do that. If it's not a requirement, then they shouldn't think about taking a test that's not going to be used to help them in admissions. Many colleges have retained their test optional options, as I said earlier, and many more schools are, adding to that because they're making decisions based on students' academic record, recommendations, and their activities list. So they really are, looking closely at students this year at the things that they're doing and their academic effort in their high schools. So I think that, check requirements for your colleges, and if you don't know how to check, just check with us and we'll help you find out where that is listed. The NVLA will be sponsoring an SAT for our students on October 11th. So please have your student sign up if they would like to take that test, sponsored by our NVLA Foundation. They do so many great things for us, so they're funding that as well. It's optional for 12th graders, and you all have received instructions as far as we know about that test date. Okay, I think Miss Daphne Adler will take on international universities.
Yes, a little bit more for me. So international universities are an amazing opportunity in addition to the American universities, as Ms. Price was saying. Going abroad is a really amazing opportunity in a lot of different ways, and students do not need to speak another language necessarily to go and study in another country. There are English-speaking universities pretty much everywhere in the world. And we're going to have a number of college rep visits from various international schools through the fall semester, and quite a few at our college fair next month. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities to touch base with different universities. Next slide, please. And these are some of the really great advantages of considering applying abroad. So in addition to just kind of the idea of having more options, a full degree abroad costs a fraction of the price of an American degree most of the time, even taking into account cost of living and travel expenses. It often can be like about half the cost of a private college. It often can be in line with UC and CSU, believe it or not. So sometimes students will say, well, why would I go abroad if I could get a degree in California for the same amount of money? That's true. You absolutely could. It's really all about what does the student want. And if they want to have like, a different experience out there, then they actually can do that in a very affordable way relative to American universities. There are shorter degree programs in some countries. Like, for example, in most of the UK, a basic bachelor's degree is 3 years, not 4. So there again, you shave 25% of the cost off the top. In addition to that, there are a lot of like dual degree and customizable options for like a 3+1 or a 4+1 bachelor master's, just depending on where students are attending. There are also work opportunities, like basically what we would call a co-op here. Students can tack on to their degree abroad as well, or another study abroad year, or any number of different things that can extend it a bit, and they're getting more done in the same period of 4 years that a student would do their basic bachelor's here. And then kind of overall big picture, in addition to just the academic part, they're getting exposure to international work opportunities, professional contacts, they're being immersed in other languages and cultures and learning how to truly work with people from absolutely everywhere. And more employers are viewing international experience as really desirable and preferable in resumes. So that is one way that students can enhance their opportunities for employment later. Students are going to become independent adults a lot more quickly. It depends on their living situation, but a lot of times they're in like a suite style apartment with other students, and they're learning how to cook and clean and kind of negotiate how to live together, negotiate life in another country with a lot of support. There's definitely support. But yeah, they are going to grow up really, really quickly. And lastly, it's something different. Again, there's so many options here in the US. And if students want something a little bit different, this is a way that they can explore that. And another thing that's not on this slide that I want to mention is that admission often is much more transparent than in the US, which is a nice sort of off-ramp, if you will, from the stress of the American system. So a lot of great reasons to consider it. Students can come and chat with me anytime if they want more information. All right, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jimmy's Parker to wrap us up.
Thank you so much. So what should your students be doing right now? I would say first thing on the screen that you see is breathe, and that is very important. There's so much information that's out there. I often tell my students they don't know what they don't know. And that's why, as you've heard here tonight, we have so many different supports here on campus to provide your student with. So make sure that you're also encouraging them to utilize our services, ask questions. We're happy, all of us, to answer them as they come up for your students. And also make sure that they're maintaining progress on their A to G requirements and their grades. So sometimes students might kind of feel the need to coast in their senior year. They submitted their applications, but we want them to maintain that same progress just as colleges do. And there's resources on campus like the tutorial center, their teachers, and so on, to be able to continue to do well and to strive well. They need to review the requirements for the schools on their college list. So looking at whether or not they require letters of recommendations from teachers or from their counselor, essays, supplemental essays, so on and so forth. Just making sure that they're keeping up to speed with what is required for the schools they're applying to. If they do indeed need a counselor letter of recommendation, they should be submitting their packet materials according to the deadlines that we mentioned. And again, the letter of information they received during ACT last week, and the information is on our counseling section of the website. If they haven't already, they should identify and ask in person 1 to 2 teachers to write their teacher letters of recommendation, depending on whether or not the colleges they're applying to require it. And then very important, checking email and Canvas regularly. So when it comes to Canvas, that's for their school work, their teachers' correspondence. Email, of course, is from our school, but also the colleges. So they will want to make sure that they're keeping up to date with all of those different requirements as they're coming into their email. So speaking of that, they'll want to make sure that they're checking the college application portals after they submitted their application to see if there's any new requirements that they have to be aware of, anything that they have to submit, any missing documents. That's how colleges will typically communicate with them. They should also make sure that they're adhering to the deadlines. So not only our deadline for the letter of rec submission, but also their college's deadline. So they need to make sure that their application is submitted no later than that date that the college is publishing. And the colleges are not going to start reading those applications until all the materials have been received. Also, we have already told the students this, but they should use, like when they're signing up for Common App or the other colleges, they should use a personal email address, not their school email address, because they won't have access to that after graduation. And when it's a personal email, we want them to use a professional one. So a good standard is firstname.lastname@gmail.com, for example, or whichever, server they prefer, but something professional. And then also being cautious about what they're posting on social media. So, having a private account, but then even behind those private accounts, being very courteous, polite, because colleges, they have been known to rescind students for, offensive social media content. So, we finally want to thank the foundation for their support. They fund our college and career centers and the services that we provide. And without further ado, we'll get into the questions. We've got a few questions and still there, but we've also been answering throughout this presentation. So feel free to look at those answered questions just in case there's anything that might be relevant. So we have one question. Daphna, if you wouldn't mind answering this one, I think this might be up your speed. So can you elaborate on how admissions to international schools might be more transparent in the US?
Yes, happy to do that. So I'm going to use the UK as an example because that's pretty common for students to apply to abroad. So whereas in the US, like UCs, for example, will say there's a minimum eligibility, right? And so many students will meet that eligibility, but it's very hard to know beyond that if students are going to be accepted until they actually find out whether or not they were accepted. In the UK, what happens is they will post for like every university for every given program will post exact numbers. Like they'll say, for example, and for our type of school with an AP curriculum, they might say for X major, the student needs 3 AP scores of 4 or 5. Sometimes they might say that they have to be in certain subjects, sometimes not. But most of the time, and I don't want to say all the time because there are always exceptions, but most of the time, if a student hits those numbers and criteria, they will be accepted. Students can only apply to 5 universities in the UK on a given academic cycle. So you don't want to apply for what we would call a reach school. There's no point. It just doesn't work that way. It's not like, oh, well, maybe they'll like the student's essay. If a student does not have those minimum numbers, they will not be accepted. So it's not anything, personal about the student. So in that way, it's just more clear because the student can say, okay, I have the qualifications for this major at this university, but I'm below in this university, so I'm not going to apply to this one. And most of the time, then the student kind of has an idea if they're going to get in or not. So that's one example, but that's pretty typical.
Thank you. We have a quick question about what is Canvas. It's a learning management system, so it's similar to Google Classroom. Most of our teachers are using that to post homework assignments. Students are able to submit their assignments through Canvas. Ask your students, and hopefully they are able to tell you because they have Canvas with at least one of their classes that they're enrolled in. And let's see. Question about the digital letter of rec request form and whether or not it's applicable for the teacher letter of rec. So it is not. Teachers have their own processes for letters of recommendation. So if your student has already spoken with the teacher or teachers that they're going to have a letter of rec from, they would have informed them what they need. Sometimes it's an interview, sometimes it's like a brag sheet. It can depend from teacher to teacher. So our letter of rec request form is only specific to the counselor letter of rec. There's a spot on that form that students were instructed to have a couple of teachers who or staff members on campus who may know them, just as like a reference, similar to like, with job applications, but not the same teachers who are writing their letters of recommendation. And let's see, just someone mentioning about the workshop slide. So we will be posting these on the website as well as this recording. And then Ms. Adler, would you like to give a little bit of information about the letter of rec? The question is the counselor letter of rec simply a letter, or do counselors fill out a form?
Sure. So counselors write a full letter just like teachers. However, it's a bit of a different focus. So whereas a teacher will write about their experience with the student specifically in their class, the counselor letter is more of like a global view of the student. So we get to talk about, how they've grown and changed over 4 years, and we touch a bit on academics, we touch on activities, we touch on character, things like that. So it is like a regular letter, not just a form. Do you want me to grab those international questions as well?
Yes, go for it.
Okay, so there's a question. In the UK, they ask for A star, A, B, which often equates to 5s in AP exams. Is this correct? So what that means is with the UK grading system, they have this like whole breakdown of and conversion chart that they will kind of convert AP scores more or less. That is an A star, A, B is going to be lower than 5s, or like the A star would be a 5. So it's essentially those are saying those are 3 different scores: A star, A, B. So it's going to depend on the college. And if there are ever questions or it's not clear on the college's website, that's where you really want to reach out to the admission representatives, because there's almost always someone who is in charge of the US. And so that's exactly what they do, is help families kind of navigate what the requirements are. And then there's another one. Do foreign universities accept community college or any other college credit? That is a great question. And the answer is it depends. I would say the more selective colleges or universities there typically are not as flexible. Some will accept dual enrollment classes sometimes in lieu of an AP. Some will say, nope, we don't do that. One of the silver linings of the pandemic was that colleges did become a bit more flexible because students weren't always able to take like SAT and ACT and some of their AP exams and such. So they did become a bit more flexible, and some will take that. Some do allow a community college transfer like altogether, as just like we would do here to UC or CSU. So the answer to that is it depends, and it's just a matter of doing research for individual universities.
Thank you, Ms. Adler. Wealth of knowledge when it comes to so many things and our international colleges and universities. Mr. Rand, would you be able to answer this question? Is it important which teacher a student is choosing, i.e. which subject the teacher teaches?
Yes, so great question. I think it comes up often. We remind students regularly to check individual college websites to see if there are specifications on who should be writing those letters of recommendation. Often colleges will say any teacher who has observed you in class and can speak to your abilities as a student or who knows you well, and they leave it very open-ended. And then there are a handful of colleges that will specify that they want a teacher from a humanities core content area and or a STEM core content area. So students would need to be picking a humanities and a STEM recommender. And that is, again, for a handful of colleges, but it is important for students to look through individual college websites to make sure that they aren't accidentally asking teachers that don't meet that requirement. At max, it's 2 teachers. We just had the University of Chicago visiting yesterday, and they allow for a supplemental letter, but the rep made it very clear if the supplemental letter is an academic teacher, that's not adding new information beyond the other 2 academic recommendations and the counselor letter. So it just muddies the water and kind of slows things down. It does not help the student to have a 3rd letter repeating information. And so more is not always better in the case of supplemental information. And Ms. Price and I would be happy to consult with your individual student on who they've asked. Is that going to meet the requirements? Should they submit a supplemental letter? Why or why not? Because there isn't a one size fits all answer to that.
Thank you. And then we have the final question about adding outside transcripts onto the Los Altos High School transcript. So I can give a bit of an answer, and then I might touch on Ms. Price to give some more feedback. So I can speak logistically. One, we do have an out-of-district course approval process. So just be aware that there is a limit to how many units can be placed on the Los Altos High School transcript. It's up to 40 outside credits. And whether or not a student puts it on the transcripts, most times they're going to have to submit that original Foothill College or whatever the outside institution is, their transcript directly to the colleges or college that they attend. Ms. Price, do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
Yeah, because I mean, if they're our California kids putting into a UC application, UCs will require that they list Foothill and list the classes on the Foothill anyways. So it isn't necessary. It doesn't do them any good to have it on their high school transcript only, because the UC is going to separate and they're going to look at the transfer work and they're going to look at the high school work. So students might as well just report the work as it is from Foothill and not, have it put on their high school transcript, because they still have to list it from Foothill, list it into the community college section, the college section on their applications anyways. And private schools actually will want to see the original transcript as well. So you are correct. Students probably just sort of double booking by putting it both places, but they're not going to look for college work on the high school transcript. They're going to go to the college section and pull that work out in the application.
Thank you. And then this question about how SAT scores are submitted. So your student needs to go onto the College Board website and do the send score process through that. So that's how they'll be sending scores. All right. Okay, so if a student took an art requirement course outside of the district, is it good for them to put it on their high school transcript? Or is it okay to submit it as a supplement transcript? So assuming that it's in a college preparatory art class, that it's an accredited institution, and if this is applicable to UC and CSU, that it's on their A to G course list, it's the same answer as with the Foothill. When we were speaking about Foothill or college courses, you could choose to put it onto the Los Altos High School transcript if it was pre-approved. However, you're more than likely just going to be submitting that original institution's transcript directly to the college or colleges. All right. This was great. So glad that you all could join us. Looks like one final question, and then we'll have to wrap up. Is there any reason why we would not add it to a Los Altos High School transcript? Is there any advantage?
I'll take that. If the student has taken the class, and the advantage is that they've taken the class, and it will be listed in the application. So there's no disadvantage at all for them listing it under the institution they took it under. The advantage is the same in terms of colleges being able to see it, but if it's on the high school transcript and it's not listed separately and students do not send that separate work in, college is going to be asking for that work. So let's get it into the appropriate place, whether it's a high school that you took that class at, other than Los Altos, the other high school has got to go in there, and you got to put down where you took the class and the grades you got, and you still have to do it if it's college as well. So there is no advantage to adding it to the high school transcript.
Thank you, Ms. Price. All right, so thank you so much for joining us tonight. Again, the slides and the recording will be available on our website shortly. Have your students reach out to us if they have questions, or just to say hello, and make sure that they are adhering to their deadlines, the letter of rec packet or letter of rec form, the request form by the deadlines appropriate, whether applying early or regular, as well as their actual college application deadlines. Make sure they're going to the College and Career Center. We love to see them. And I hope you all have a fabulous evening. Thank you so much.